Hi, today we're going to learn about graphing linear equations. So in this section I will go over the two different ways of graphing linear equations and the three different forms of linear equation, and I will go over perpendicular and parallel lines and just the basic of linear equations. So there are three forms of linear equation. You have the first form is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. The second form is called the point slope form, where you have y minus y subscript 1, not y to the 1 power. It's subscript 1 equals slope times x minus x subscript 1. And then we also have the standard form, which is ax plus by equals c. And then this will all make sense when we do the problems. And then remember in the first problem, where we have y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope. Well, slope can be measured in y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if you don't remember, linear equations they either look like this. They can either go positive this way, or they could go negative like this way. They have a slope and they also have a y-intercept. But what isn't a linear equation is something like this, right? That's a parabola. It's not linear. So this is not linear. This is linear. So yeah, so a linear equation has a slope and it has a y-intercept, and it could be in three forms. And then I'm going to teach you how there's like two ways you can graph a linear equation. The first way is you can use this formula, right? Y equals mx plus b, find the slope and find the y-intercept. Or to graph a linear equation, all you need is 2 points, right? You either need the y-intercept or the x-intercept. So to find the y-intercept, you plug in 0 into the x and then solve for y. And then to find the x-intercept, you plug in 0 into y and then solve for x. And this will all make sense when we do the problems. Okay, so the first one says, find the slope of the line containing each pair of points. So we just got to find the slope. We don't want the linear equation graph. So remember slope, m is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So how do we know which one is our x's and which is our y's? We just label it. So we call this x1, y1, and then we call the second coordinate x2, y2. Okay, so we know our y2s and y1s and our x2s. Now we just have to plug it into the equation. So y2 is 3 minus y1, which is a negative 1, so it's minus a minus 1, over x2, which is 5 minus 5. The numerator is 3 minus a negative 1 is 2 negatives becomes positive, so it's 4. And then 5 minus 0 is 0. Okay, so whenever you're in a situation where you have a number over 0 is always undefined, right? Not to be confused with if it was 0 over 4, that would be 0, right? So yeah, it's always the and if you ever get confused, you could just put it in the calculator. If you put 4 over 0 in the calculator, it would say error. If you put 0 over 4 in the calculator, you would get 0. So our slope is undefined or no slope. So that's how you find slope. Okay, so it says the second problem says find the equation of line through the given pair, solve it for y. So for this one, we got to find the slope and the y-intercept. So we got to find it in this form, y equals mx plus b, and then we need to find slopes, and we know slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So first step, I'm going to label this x1, y1, x2, y2. So first I'm going to find slope. So y2 is -1 minus y1, which is 6, minus 6. Yeah, it's really important to label these because you could make a mistake, and I made mistakes before. So okay, so then it's the denominator is x2 minus x1. So x2 is 4 minus and minus 2. So the numerator is -1 minus 6, which is -7. And then 4 minus and -2, these two negatives becomes a positive, so it's 6. So our slope is -7 over 6, right? Okay, so if we put it in this form, y equals m, which is -7, 6, times it by x, plus b. So we're not done because we got to find b. We got to find b. How do we find b? Okay, so you got to pick a coordinate. You can either pick this one or this one. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to pick this one. -2, 6. And then this will be our x, and then this will be our y. So we said our y is 6, so we're going to just plug it in. So y is 6 equals -7, 6 times it by x, which is -2, plus b. So if you simplify this should be 14, 6. This should be 6, and then this should be b. Our goal is to solve for b, so I want to get rid of this 6 because we have a fraction right here. So I'm going to multiply everything by 6, including the b. So 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 6 is just 14. And then 6 times b is 6b. Our goal is to solve for b, so I'm going to subtract 14 from both sides. I will put it right here, sorry. So 36 minus 14 is 22. And then this cancels, so you're left with 6b. So I'm going to divide both sides by 6. So our b is 22 over 6. Okay, so our equation is going to be y equals, we're going to put it in this form, y equals mx plus b form. So y equals, our m is, we said it was -7, 6 times by x plus b. And what is our b is 22 over 6. So this should be your final answer. Okay, so now me erase, okay, so we have y equals negative 76x plus 22 over 22, 6, right? So the problem doesn't ask you to graph it, but I gotta show you how to graph it, and there's two different ways. So let me erase this. Once you get this form, you have to know how to graph it. So let me clear this really quick. So our equation was y equals negative 76x plus 11 over 3. So we know this 11/3 is our y-intercept, and this negative 76 is our slope. So there's two ways you could graph it. You could start the y-intercept and then go do the rise over run, right? For this case, I don't want to do the rise over run because we're dealing with fractions. So, but I'm going to show you anyway how I did it, how you do the rise over run. So what is 11/3 really is? 11/3 is about 3.66. It's about 3.66, right? So let me just so there's two ways you can graph linear equations. This way, you can how to graph this. The first way is you start the y-intercept, which is 11/3, which is about 3.66. Our y-intercept is 0, 3.66. So here's 1, 2, 3. 3.6 is about right here. A little bit over the 5, like half line. Okay, so now once you find your y-intercept, you start from the y-intercept, and then you go from you look at your slope, which is negative 76, right? And it's negative, so which way is it gonna go? It's not gonna go this way, right? It's gonna go negative. So what you do is here negative 76 is our m. So this negative 7 is like the rise over run, right? Rise over run. What you can do is from 3.6 you could go up 7, and then left 6. Up 7, up 6. Or you could go down 7, right 6. It doesn't really matter as long as you're going negative. You're going this way because it's negative, right? So this is why this rise over run isn't going to be good for because we're dealing with fractions. So let's try to make the best of it. So we have to go down 7. So this is half 1. I'm just going to really estimate it. This is not going to be accurate because we have fractions. So this is going to be half. This is 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, I can't really do it because of this. Okay, so this is half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then go 6 right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a really bad example, but this is because, and then all you really need is 2 points. So we know it's going to be negative. Yeah, so what I did was I started at the y-intercept, and then I look at the slope, and I got to ask myself, is it going positive or negative? Right? Is it going this way? Is the slope going positive? If it's positive, it's going to go this way. If it's going to go negative, it's going to go this way. And then you do the rise over run. So in this case, I could go down 7 from the y-intercept, down 7, and then right 6. Or you could have gone from the y-intercept, you could go up 7, and then left 6. It doesn't matter as long as it's going this way, the negative way. So that's the first way. The second way is probably the best way for this occasion because we're dealing with fractions. So the second way is you just need 2 points. You need the y-intercept and the x-intercept. We have one of it. We have the y-intercept, which is 0,3.66, right? And then we'll find the x-intercept. You plug in 0 for y. So let's look at the original equation. Wherever there's a y, you plug in 0. So it's going to be 0 equals negative 7/6 plus 11/3. Forget this x. So we got to solve for x. So I'm going to subtract 11/3. Subtract 11/3. So I get negative 11/3 equals negative 7/6 x. And then I want to get rid of this fraction. So we have a 3 and a 6. Let's multiply by the greatest common factor, which is 6. So 6 over 3 is 2, and then 2 times negative 11 is 22. Negative 7/6 times by 6 is still negative 7x, and then divide everything by negative 7. So our x equals 22 divided by negative 7 is negative 3.14. Okay, so our x-intercept in coordinate form would be negative 3.14, comma 0. So we already know we know this point is right here, and then our x-intercept is hold on. I made a mistake right here. This should be negative. Two negatives is a positive. So this should be, yeah, positive 3.14, not negative. So here's 3.14. So here's our x-axis. So it's 1, 2, 3. 3.14 is right about here. So yeah, and then once you do that, you just connect the dots. So that's how you graph linear equation in two ways. You can either get it in this form, y equals mx plus b form. Start at your y-intercept, which is 11 over 3, and then you look at your slope. Is it going to be positive or negative? If it's going to be positive, you have to make it look like this. Go in this direction. If it's negative, go down this direction. And then you just do the rise over run. So from the y-intercept, our rise over run is negative 7 over 6. So you can go from the y-intercept, you can go down 7, right 6. Down 7, right 6. Or you can start at the y-intercept and go up 7, left 6. It doesn't matter as long as it's going negative. The second way is to just get 2 points, the y-intercept and the x-intercept. So we know the y-intercept already, and to find the x-intercept, you plug in 0 into y and then solve for x, which is 3.14. So our y-intercept is 0.3.66, so it's right here, and then our x-intercept is positive 3.14, which is right here. Okay, so that's how you graph a linear equation in the two different ways. That was a long problem. That was kind of long. So let's do the next one. Okay, so it says, write each equation in slope-intercept form and identify the slope and y-intercept of the line. So So they just want this. We want it in y equals mx plus b form, because they want it in, slope-intercept form. Yeah, that slope-intercept form, our goal is to put it in this form, y equals mx plus b. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to just simplify the right side. So this is going to be 1/2, two negatives, so x minus a negative 3 is going to be positive, so it's going to be x plus 3. And then just bring the left. And then I'm going to distribute FOIL or distribute this 1/2, so this is going to be 1/2 x plus 3/2 y plus 1. So we want it in this form, right? So we have to get y by itself, so I'm going to subtract this 1, subtract this 1. So y equals 1/2 x, and then 3/2 minus 1, or you could say 2/2 because it's the same thing as 1. 3 minus 2 is 1/2. So this is going to be plus 1/2. And remember from this form, this m is our slope and b is our y-intercept. Right, so from looking at this, what do you think our slope is? Our m is, it's always with the x, right? So our m is just going to be 1/2, not 1/2 x, it's just 1/2. Our y-intercept in coordinate form is going to be 0, 1/2, right? The x is always 0, and it's just this 1/2. So that's how you do that. That's how you solve. That's how you do that. That's how you find the y-intercept and the slope. Okay, so it says, this one says, use the y-intercept and slope the sketch of the graph of each equation. So, okay, so remember, there's two ways to graph a linear equation. You can find the y-intercept. This one is good. I'll show you. So, what form is this? This is in, ask yourself, what form is this? This is in point slope form. I mean, what is it called? Slope intercept form. So this is slope intercept form. Right? Slope intercept form. So what is our slope and what is our y-intercept? So our m is negative 3/4, and our b is -1, or that's our y-intercept, right? Or you could put it in coordinate form, it would be 0, -1. So how to graph, the first way to graph it is you start at the y-intercept, which is 0, -1, so it's right here. And then you look at the slope. Okay, since there's a negative, which way are we going to go? it's not gonna be this way, it's gonna be this way. So what you can do is, from this y-intercept, you can go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 4 to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So right, it'd be right about this. Or you could have, from the y-intercept, you could have just go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 4 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't matter as long as you know which direction you're going. So this is it's really important to label your graph. So this is y equals negative 3/4 x minus 1. Okay, the second way is to just plot 2 points, and we know 2 points. So we know our y-intercept is, in coordinate form, would be 0, negative 1, and then our x-intercept we don't know, but we can find out. How do we find the x-intercept? You plug in 0 for the x. So wherever there's a y, you plug in 0. So it's going to be 0 equals negative 3/4 x minus 1, and then you try to solve for x. So I'm going to add 1, add 1. This is 1 equals negative 3/4 x. 1 cancels. Let's get rid of this 4, so I'm going to multiply everything by 4. So this 4 equals negative 3x. Then I'm going to divide everything by negative 3, negative 3. And then x equals, 4 divided by negative 3 is, it's about negative 1.33. Negative 1.33. So we know that the y-intercept is 0, it is negative 1, 0, negative 1, and our x-intercept is negative 1.33, 0. So it would be, here's negative 1, so 1.33 should be right about here. Once you got those 2 points, connect the dot, and then make the line, and then you're ready to go. That's how you graph, and that's how you graph a linear equation. Yeah, so to find the x-intercept, you plug in 0 for y, and then for the y-intercept, you plug in 0 for x, but we already know the y-intercept because it was already in slope-intercept form. So yeah, let's do this one. Or it says find the equation of line through the given pair of the points in standard form using only integers. So now they're asking, we've got to put this in standard form. So standard form is this form, right? We have to have it in ax plus by equals c. But not to worry, this isn't hard. So first what I'm going to do is I got to find slope. So to find slope, I got to label this x1, y1, x2, y2. So I'm going to put m around here. So m is, so it's going to be y2 is 1/5 minus y1, which is 1/4, and then x2 is negative 1/3 minus x1, which is 1/2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first simplify the numerator. So what is our GCF? 5 and 4, which is 20. So we have to multiply the 4 by 5. Multiply this by 4. So you should get on the numerator you should get negative 1/20. And then on the denominator, our GCF is 6 because we have 3 and a 2. So this, we're going to multiply this by 3, multiply this by 2. And then you should get -2 minus 3 is -5. -5 over 6. So let's look at this. We have a complex fraction, so we have 20 and a 6, right? What is our GCF for a 20 and a 6? It would be 120. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 120. So if you multiply -120 times by -120 times by 120, you get -6. And if you multiply -6 by 120, you get -100. And then that simplifies as positive 350. So that is our m. Once we found our m, I'm going to then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use point slope form. Point slope form is this form. And the reason why I'm going to use this first is because we can move all the x's and all the y's to the left and all the numbers to the right. So I'll show you. So we're going to use this form, right? Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, right? So this is their point slope form. So for this one, we got to pick a point. So we could either pick this point or this point. This doesn't really matter. I'll just pick this point. I always circle it so I don't get confused. So this is going to be y minus y1, which is 1/4, equals, and then our slope is 350 times it by x minus x1, which is 1/2. So what I'm going to do is now on the right, I'm just going to FOIL this out. So this is going to be 3 over 50x minus 3 over 100. And then on the left, we have y minus 1/4. Okay, so we said that we want it in this form, right? We want it in standard form. Ax plus by equals c, right? So what I'm going to do is I got to get all the x's and all the y's on the left and then all the numbers on the right. So let's move this -1/4 to the right. So I'm going to add 1/4 to both sides. So this is going to be y equals, let's combine this -3 over 100 with the 1/4. So our GCF is going to be 100. So I'm going to multiply this by 25. So 25 minus 3 is 22 over 100. And then that simplifies by 1150. So this is going to be 3 over 50x plus 1150. Yeah, 1150. Now we want it in this form, so we have a y on the left side, which is what we want. Now let's move this x, this 350x to the left. So I'm going to subtract 350x. Let me clean it up. So I'm going to put it right here. So this is going to be -3 over 50x plus y equals 1150. We're almost done, we just have to simplify. I want to get rid of this 50. So I'm going to multiply everything by 50. So this should be negative 3x, and then plus 50y equals 11. And we have it in, so we have it in this form, right? There's no fraction, just numbers. So we have, yeah, so it's in this, it looks like this, so this is our correct answer. This one. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, it says find the slope of each line described. So we got to find the slope. It says a line that is parallel to y equals 0.5x minus 9. So do you remember what parallel looks like? So a parallel, when two lines are parallel, they look something like this, right? We'll call this y. We'll call this y graph 1 and then graph y2, right? So when something's parallel, their slope must be the same. That's just the rule for parallel. So when something's parallel, their slope m1 must equal to the slope of the other slope. So m1 equals m2. So in this case, what is our slope? We'll call our first slope m1 0.5. So what would be our other slope for our next equation? It's going to be 0.5 as well, right? Because parallel means you have to have the same slope. So the slope is just 0.5. What about this one? What about how about this one? A line that is perpendicular. Wait, did I write it again? No. So line perpendicular. I'm going to write perpendiculars this way because perpendicular, that's what perpendicular means. It forms like a 90-degree angle, perpendicular to 3y minus 3x equals 7. So yeah, so perpendicular means they form a 90-degree angle. That's all you need to know about perpendicular. And then how do you find this? To figure out if two slopes are perpendicular, is the rule is when m1 times m2 equals -1. So m2 is basically the reciprocal, the negative reciprocal of m1. So let's look at this. We have a 3y minus 3x equals 7. We need to get y by itself because we need it in y equals mx plus b form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 3x to both sides. So we get 3y equals 3x plus 7. And then I'm going to divide everything by 3. So our y equals x plus 7/3. So looking at this equation, y equals x plus 7/3, what is our slope? Our slope is right here, and whenever it's just x, there's always an invisible 1, so our slope, m1, is just 1. So according to the rule of perpendicular, m2 must be the negative reciprocal of m1. So what is the reciprocal of 1? Just 1, right? Because if you put it 1 over 1, because there's a 1 over 1 is the same thing as 1, and if you flip it, it's still 1 over 1, but there's going to be a negative. And then that should be m2. And how to check it is you multiply m1 times m2, and that should give you negative 1. So we said that m1 is 1, m2 is negative 1. Does that give you negative 1? True, yes. That's how I know that m2 is the reciprocal of m1. So m2 should just be negative 1. Okay, so write an equation in standard form using only integers for each line described. So we've got to put it in standard form, and then we got to make sure it's perpendicular to x minus 2y equals 3, and it's containing the point negative 3 comma 1. So first step, what I will do is I've got to make it in y equals, I got to make this into y equals mx plus b form. So I got to make this in y, got to solve this to y. So what I'm going to do is where I will subtract x. So you get negative 2y equals negative x plus 3. Divide everything by negative 2. So we get it in y equals positive 1/2 x minus 3/2. So what is our slope? Our slope, or m1, is 1/2. How do we, okay, now we want to know, we need another line that's perpendicular to this one. So what is the rule? Remember from the last problem? You have to find the reciprocal of m1, the negative reciprocal of m1. So here's m1. We got to figure out what is m2, our second. It's basically reciprocal of m1, the negative reciprocal. So if you flip 1/2, 1 over 2, if you flip it, it would be 2 over 1. But we have to make sure it's negative. And then if you were to check it, you would multiply 1/2 times by negative 2, and it should give you negative 1. So this is true. So we know that m2 is the reciprocal of m1, or the perpendicular. That's how we know it's perpendicular. But now we got to make sure it's in standard form. So wait, we're not quite done yet. And this also, we have to put it in this form. First, we got to put it in this form, y equals mx plus b. So we know our new slope is going to be negative 2. So it's going to be y equals negative 2 x plus b. But we don't know what b is, or our y-intercept, because that's what b is. But they give us clues to figure out what b is because they give us a point, negative 3 comma 1. So this is our x and this is our y. So we got to solve for b. So we say that y is 1. So here's 1, negative 2, and then our x is negative 3 plus b. We got to solve for b. So that's negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6 plus b. Subtract 6, both sides, you're left with negative 5 equals b. So this is, remember this, we have this form in, slope form, right? So we have it, so our graph is going to look like negative 2x plus b, which is negative 5, But we're not done, right? This is not the correct form we want. We want it in standard form, which is ax plus by equals c. So we're almost there. We're just going to move all the x's to the left and all the numbers to the right. So let's move this negative 2x to the left. So I'm going to add 2x, add 2x. So you have 2x plus y equals negative 5. Now this is in standard form because we have the x and y's on one side and the numbers on one side. So this should be your final answer. So let me just review something. So for parallel lines, the slope must be the same, and then for perpendicular lines, if you want a new line that's perpendicular to the other line, you have the slope must be the negative reciprocal of the first slope. So in this case, our first slope was 1/2. So the negative reciprocal would be negative 2/1. And then to check it, you multiply the first slope times the second slope, and then you should get negative 1. That's how you know it's perpendicular. Okay, I guess the last problem. So it says, find the value of a in each case the line through negative 2, a, and a, 3 has a slope of negative 1/2. This looks really confusing. So what I'm going to do is, they ask you, find the value of a. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to use what I know. So we know that slope, remember slope is y2 minus y1 x2 minus x1. So we could call this x1, y1, x2, y2. So slope is, okay, so y2 is 3 minus y1, which is a, and then x2 is a minus x1, which is negative 2. So this is 3 minus a, and then a plus 2, because 2 negatives is a positive. We said our goal is to find a, and then this should equal negative 1/2. What I'm going to do is, I'm just going to play the guess and check game. I will try, for a, I will try 4. If I plug in 4 into a, negative 3 minus 4, 4 plus 2, I get negative 1/6. Okay, so I need a higher number, so I'm going to try 5. So 3 minus 5, 5 plus 2, which is negative 2/7. No, but it's really close. So let's try, I will try a really higher number, 8. 3 minus 8, 8 plus 2. 3 minus 8 is negative 5. 8 plus 2 is 10. That simplifies to negative 1/2. So that's true. This is true. So our a must be 8. For this problem, I just literally used what I know, and then I just guessed and checked. And think that's it for this. Yeah, we'll call it a day. Also, if you really like my videos, you can click like, or you can subscribe, or you could just leave comments. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. So yeah, if you like it enough, just subscribe. Thanks.